Hello friends, today I'm going to create a doll based on the Marvel character Loki. If you like this video, please consider giving me a like, and if you want to see more, then please consider subscribing. And oh my goodness, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. It's so exciting. I didn't think I'd get here ever. And it's not far off my year anniversary as well, so that's pretty cool. Very exciting. Thank you again, and thank you in advance if you decide to subscribe. I gave this doll a fuller bust for a previous project and I thought I would be able to use it here. I want my Loki to be smiling, so I have either this Bonita doll or this Moanica Decay. I also had this Disney Descendants Maleficent doll, and because her horns are sculpted, I thought that actually this would be one of the few projects that I could use this doll for. So I decided to go with her. She has a body shape that I'm not used to, but I like the sculpted abs and I think these will work great for a comic book character. She has a weird neck peg which caused me some problems later. I'll explain what happened later in the video. I used a Stanley knife to take her horns off, and I had to tip the neck peg out of her horn hole to make sure that I didn't lose it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to reroute this doll because it's very difficult to reroute through thick vinyl that's not got routing holes already. So these big holes aren't a huge problem. I'm going to show you how I deal with them in a little bit. Her head's kind of this weird egg shape, so I'm trying to sand it to be a little bit more normal. I am going to sculpt over it, so hopefully it won't be a huge deal. I'm taking her face off with acetone. Her helmet thing is also painted, and I'm trying to get as much as I can off, but it's got a lot of texture, so it's kind of holding on to it. I didn't realise that somebody had drawn on her face and round the edge of her helmet as well, so I tried to use benzoyl peroxide cream to get this off, but you either need to put this in the sun for a couple of days or leave it under UV, and I just couldn't be bothered in the end, so I gave up. I want my Loki to have a fuller bust because a lot of comic book characters do have big boobs, and so I'm doing that in the way that I usually do, except the shape's a little bit different. Usually I go for a more natural shape, and this time I want them to look like they're really pushed up and corseted because her breastplate is going to be kind of a corsety style, and often in comic books female characters tend to have like really pushed up boobs, and I want that. I'm trying to make the cap thing more flush with the rest of her face. I am going to sculpt over this and there's going to be hair covering it, but I don't want the bulk. Because these holes are so big, I'm not going to be able to fill them as they are like that, so I decided to use regular needle and thread to make a mesh that I'll then cover with hot glue. Because of that stain on her face and because I've given her a boob job, I need to match her skin tones. I did go a bit lighter than her actual body, but I tend to blush quite a lot, so that'll come down a bit. And so onto the face up. I found a beautiful illustration of Loki that I'll link in the description box below, which was my main inspiration. I want her to have a sexy and mischievous look. I searched for images of real humans with the facial expression I wanted as reference as well, and I'm looking at those while I'm working. So you might have noticed that I'm making a female Loki doll rather than a male Loki that most of us are used to seeing, and this is because I wanted to celebrate Pride with a doll that really speaks to me. I said in a previous video that I'm both gender fluid and bisexual, and canonically so is Loki. I didn't know a huge amount about Loki other than the Marvel movies before starting this repaint, but as prep I read a few comics which was super fun, and currently I'm reading Agent of Asgard. I finished this doll before finishing the book actually. I really like his character. Throughout history, non-cishet folks have often been like the bad guys, and a lot of villains in movies are queer-coded as well. But Loki now is very nuanced. I feel like he's not either good or bad. There's a lot of character in him. I really am a big fan of Loki now. I don't really want to read much about Thor anymore. I'm much more interested in Loki. I know that there's a TV show coming out soon, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be Lady Loki in there as well. So in Agent of Asgard, there was this one cell that I thought was amazing, and another character asked Loki why he couldn't just become a fly, fly through the keyhole and unlock a door, and he said because whenever he shapeshifts, he can only ever shapeshift into himself. So like whatever form he is, that's still Loki. I saw a meme as well, and like I think Loki changes pronouns as well. So although I guess I've been queer my whole life, I've never celebrated Pride. So this was my first time I ever did anything to kind of acknowledge Pride even. A year ago I was talking to a friend and I said like I never feel gay enough to like go to Pride or something, and his response was that I wouldn't wake up one day and be like, ping, here's your gay card. But then this week I was talking to another buddy who's also genderqueer, but they're not genderqueer the same way I am. They're agender, meaning they have no gender at all. And I was saying how I still feel shame of like not being cishet, and so I find it really hard to be like proud of my gender and my sexuality, and that's what Pride is about after all. There's a lot of infighting within the LGBT community, like with all the stuff that J.K. Rowling put out recently about trans folks. Like that's from the outside, and a lot of people with those views, like trans exclusionary radical feminists, like TERF views, are often lesbians, and I had a lot of lesbian friends before who expressed really transphobic views, and I broke friends with them, which kind of broke my heart. So there's a lot of L against T, and then there's a lot of L and G against B. And then even within trans, there's a lot of infighting there as well. So quite a long time ago, some time ago, you weren't considered trans if you didn't have dysphoria. So like you'd have to change your body to fit in line with the gender that you felt. But that's now being called transmedicalism and is not accepted. And I definitely don't agree with it. Like, I don't think that your body needs to be a certain way to mean that you're that gender. I really don't like that type of thinking at all. Personally, I'm usually cishet passing. So like sometimes I just look fully male, like especially if I'm not speaking. I think I've got quite a feminine voice, or I look completely female. So it can be quite easy for me to fly under the radar, but just because I look one way doesn't mean that that's how I'm feeling. So gender presentation and actual gender are two totally different things. So personally, I'm gender fluid, so sometimes it took me a really long time to figure this out. I said I was non-binary for a long time because I just couldn't put my finger on it. And sometimes I was like, no, maybe I'm a guy. But then the next day I'd be like, no, I'm definitely a woman. So that then made me figure out that I'm gender fluid, because I do have those feelings. And sometimes I feel like I'm both male and female, and sometimes I feel like I'm in the middle. I don't really ever feel like I'm neither. Most of my friends that are gender non-binary are agender. And we've been talking about that recently because we have such different experiences. So in terms of pronouns as well, like I do tend to prefer they them pronouns, but I don't mind she her or he him. Like if I look like a guy and you call me he him, it's completely understandable. But if you know me, I'd way rather have they them or my name, because she her is the one that I get mostly, and I can find that quite uncomfortable. So I'm going to put a load of links in the description box and tagged of creators that I like. Please go check them out because they really helped me in my gender discovery. I know my videos are now kind of like Repaint and story time with Lee, but just a little note on this face up. I did draw her teeth showing at first, but later I filled them in, so her mouth is closed in the final doll. I hope you don't mind that it's story time with Dolly. I'm creating the base of the horns here with wire and hot glue. This is really firm steel wire, so I could just push it straight through the vinyl, and then I'm using epoxy sculpt to kind of build them up and to set the base as well. I really should have made the horns before I did the face up, but I don't know why, I just did it all backwards. Once the epoxy had cured, I sanded it down using my nail drill. I decided that my Loki is going to have kind of like underwear armour, so rather than making those removable, I'm just going to sculpt over her already sculpted underwear. I actually created her a bigger bum as well. I made wefts out of straightened Canacolon hair using hot glue, and I trimmed the hot glue so that there was only a tiny little band at the top of the hair. Starting at the nape of her neck, I used more hot glue to glue the wefts on. I'm using the nozzle of the glue gun to kind of melt the weft bands as well, so this will kind of give me a lower profile against the head. I love her hair like this. It's way too long, but it's so soft. It's really beautiful. I don't know why I got it this long, because I measured it before I cut it and everything, so just a bit of a waste. This is air drying polymer clay. It's not particularly sticky, so it means it will be really good to create the base of her helmet, and it won't kind of stick into her hair. This clay is easy to roll into flat sheets. You can cut it with a pair of scissors when it's wet or when it's dry, and then you can blend it with water as well. It's not very good for sanding though. Epoxy sculpt is a lot better for sanding. To make her boots, I'm first sewing a sock using a cotton jersey fabric, which I pin tight to her leg and then sew along her leg. I'm sewing up to the back of her knee, but leaving extra fabric because I'm going to add a knee guard to that later. So once I've sewn up the length of her leg, I take it off, trim off the excess, and then turn it right way up and put it back on her leg. Using more of that air drying polymer clay, I'm just rolling some sheets, cutting with a piece of scissors and then like draping them over her leg, and I'm just going to leave the clay there to dry because it will fit the shape of her leg, and in the past I've been able to take it off without problems. I'm using that clay again to create her breastplate, just starting with the base under her bust. This I'm not doing particularly neatly because I'm going to trim it once it's dry. And I'm using the Stanley knife on her body, which is a bit of a recipe for disaster, but I don't think I created any scratches in her. Mostly lucky really. I'm adding embellishments with some more clay too. I'm blending the pieces with water and a silicone sculpting tool, and then I'm leaving that to dry on her body as well. I made these triangle pieces and left them to dry off of the doll, and then I'm just gluing them to her helmet and then using some epoxy sculpt to blend everything together and build up the horns a little bit more. I'm trimming down her knee guards and then gluing them to the back of the socks. I drew around the doll's foot and then cut 4 pieces, 2 for each foot, of Warbler, which I'm heating with my hair straighteners and then pressing onto the doll's foot. It's hot, so I used my silicone sculpting tool to do it. I'm using a little piece of chopstick and then some epoxy sculpt to build up the heel. And then once that epoxy sculpt was dry, I sanded it down. The soles came off her boots, but that's fine, I just glued them back on with PVA glue. I painted over the top of the boots where the knee guards are to make sure that the fabric will kind of form around those knee guards to give it more shape. Once the breastplate was dry, I drew where I wanted it to end and then trimmed it with a Stanley knife. So now that PVA glue on the top of the knee guards is dry, so I trimmed that off as well. And then I painted her boots with acrylic paint. I first painted them with an ochre colour, and then I mixed up a brown colour that was maybe a little bit too green, and then finally got on a brown that I like, and I shaded that brown with a really dark brown along the edge of the soles and around the edge of the kneecaps. I made masking tape patterns for her belt and for the skirt pieces that will be attached to them. I cut the skirt pieces out of this green shimmery stretch fabric and then edged them with gold paint. I cut the belt out of brown fake leather and then I sewed a snap to one side and glued the skirt pieces to them. Using faux fur tape, I sewed strips together, alternating the nap to create like more interest visually. And well, I had to fight with Avocado. She really wanted the tape. And then I backed that with some beige cotton, and off camera I added a little bit of fur to the edge to make sure that it was visible from the front. In the same way that I sew the socks, I sewed these arm covers. I cut a triangular piece at the hand and then painted the edges gold again. I painted her helmet gold. I used a bit of masking tape to try and make sure to get the edges gold but not paint over her face. I made these decorations out of epoxy sculpt and they'll go on her belt later, and I painted those gold too. I painted the armour underwear and her breastplate with green acrylic. And then I mixed white and green mica powder into some gloss varnish and then painted that over her underwear and her breastplate. her lips and her helmet got a coat of gloss varnish as well. I had to use some nail buffers to get some paint off of her because I'd accidentally painted her when I was doing like her boots and her pant, and then I put her back together. I struggled with her neck peg. I had kind of attached a wire to it because I thought I could get it back into the neck while it was still inside the head, but I couldn't, so I had to open the hole in her neck and then put it in the regular way, and it really is not stable at all. I lopped off a load of her hair, and then I'm just going in and putting quite a lot of layers in. The illustration that I have, she's got this really gorgeous wavy layered hair, and I really wanted to make sure to try and be able to keep that with my doll. I put some waves in with my hair straightener. I gave her earrings made of these heart-shaped Swarovski crystals. I glued the decorations onto her belt. Her belt was riding up, so I glued this ribbon like inside so it kind of will hold it down, and then at the very last minute I remembered to add her eyelashes using PVA glue and a lot of patience. So what do you think? I really like the way she turned out. She has this like cheeky grin that I just love. It was really what I wanted to achieve with her. I'm not happy about her wobbly head. To get the photos, I stuck a bit of kneaded eraser like underneath her head to hold her neck up. So how are you celebrating Pride this year? Let me know about any queer creators that you like as well. So thank you always for watching, and if you like this video then please give me a like. If you want to stick around and see some more from me then please subscribe. I'd love to have you here. Thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. How exciting is that? I can't believe there's that many people that come and look at my dolls. It's really exciting. When I get back to the UK I will be doing a giveaway. Come visit me over on Instagram if you want more information on giveaways. That's usually where I do them, but I'll try and do one over here again as well. Also, my voice has been croaky because I did karaoke a week ago, then I haven't spoken for a week and it's stuck like this. So yeah, I'll see you again soon. Happy Pride. Thanks always. Thanks again. Thanks. Bye.